Good morning, everyone. My name's Scott Silverman. I am one of the co-founders of GELF, along with Jim Nakamura and Ken Allen. And thank you all for being here today for a full day immersed in global e-commerce and international e-commerce. This is the 10th New York City GELF. The first one we did in a whiskey bar a few blocks south. So it's come a long way since then. And it's nice to see this community together. It's a very unique community, and the idea of GELF was born out of the co-founders being at other events and seeing that there was fairly light coverage of global e-commerce and international at some of these larger e-commerce events, and that there was a need for a deeper discussion on all of the topics related to that. And so that's how all of this got started. Before I hand things off to Kent and Jim, I wanted to run an idea about all of you, or among all of you, related to how our industry might be able to be supportive of the horrible situation that's going on in Israel. And I don't know about all of you. I feel a bit helpless, aside from making some donations and being supportive, but I know that, and I'm trying to think of what we can specifically do as an industry, and what the idea that I wanted to run by is that there are a lot of Israeli tech startups that support our industry, and I'm hearing that some of them are short-staffed as their team members are being called up into military service. I'm sure they're quite distracted with everything that's going on. And perhaps there are some US resources that may be available from other companies or people. So it's the beginning of an idea. If anyone wants to talk further about it, wants to build on it, please find me during the course of the day, and I'm happy to talk. I feel like between GELF and the other conference that I co-founded, Commerce Next, we have a pretty wide network of being able to reach people to get the word out for something like this, or other ideas of where we can be helpful. So hope you'll give that a little bit of thought. And have a great day here today. I'm going to turn things over to Kent and Jim, so thank you.
What we wanted to do today is, typically we've done kind of a trends presentation, things like that. We've collapsed a little bit of that into the morning program. I'm going to start off with a executive leaders keynote panel, and Jim's going to do part 2 of that. And a lot of what we do during the kind of production run up to the event is just have lots of great conversations with a lot of the people here in the room, a lot of the people that join us on speaker, join us as speakers. We do an LA event. We'll be back in LA in mid-February. A lot of the themes that we hear from the West Coast, we kind of bring to the East Coast and vice versa. So it's this idea of constantly kind of having the conversation. And this is kind of what we've heard from people, this idea we need to meet customers where and how they shop. So while we started as the Global E-commerce Leaders Forum, and we do continue to believe that in many cases digital and e-commerce is kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to international expansion, what we're hearing and what you'll hear today is that it's much more about blending and balancing opportunities, channels, ways to serve the customer. So that's kind of the direction that we'll be taking the conversation as we head into the holidays into next year. What we wanted to show you guys was, this is our tried and true, if you will, GELF expansion model. For those of you that have been kind of following us over the past decade, this has just really been not necessarily a linear progression by any means, but there's the cross-border e-commerce experience, there's selling through international marketplace channels, and the regional e-commerce operation is an area we haven't talked as much about over the years. We'll talk more about that today. What we wanted to show you, though, was what we're hearing, what we're seeing, some of the headlines. Jim, I know you helped me pull this together.
Yeah, it's been interesting. First of all, thank you all for, again, joining us, taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here today. What we're seeing from these kinds of headlines and hearing from so many of you within the GELF community is just how there's no single way to, again, really go after international growth. And so I think that's a theme you're going to hear us, hit upon, through many of the sessions, today, and how partners internationally, again, are going to be so important. It's not only around, DTC e-commerce. So a lot of we're hearing, where there's just different go-to-market, approaches, by different, brands. And that's certainly one of the big, takeaways we want all of you to leave here today with, right? Is the notion that there's more than one way to really kind of make this happen. So
what we wanted to do was just kind of blow up the framework a little bit. So on the next slide here, beyond the traditional cross-border. So number one here on the slide is the tried and true model. We're continuing to see people talk about this as, in fact, we've had some people say, I'm actually going back to the, tried and true e-commerce model. We've expanded throughout, the world, and we've had to pull back a little bit. I think the other thing that we're hearing too is more of these hybrid models, and you'll hear throughout the morning, you'll hear different ways of talking about global D2C and cross-border. But really, this is not just necessarily capturing the order at your site, but they're coming in from partner sites as well. That, we say, is kind of a maturing part of the cross-border experience. And then we've got this global D2C, or as we're kind of calling it, DTC Plus. And I don't know if June is here or not, but June kind of coined that out in LA earlier this year. We're starting to see, again, just orders coming in from different opportunities, but more importantly, fulfillment moving away from just domestic DCs and fulfillment by putting it in the belly of an airplane, trying to figure out where the drop shippers plan, how do regional 3PLs offer opportunities to improve the experience, get the product closer to customers. So just a little bit of a quick sketch of how we're seeing the cross-border space mature. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the international marketplaces maturing, because what we've seen, and I think this kind of says it all, is, for the most part, people started selling third-party through international marketplaces, almost completely leaning on their international marketplace partner for order capture and fulfillment. Certainly, we've heard conversations about people that have tried the first-party selling, and the reason, we've seen some mixed results, which is the whole tried and tried again. Some of them pull back only to try it again. We'll probably have a little bit of conversation about that, especially Jim's got a balancing marketplaces and D2C channel session in the afternoon. I think a lot of people have been to our events and they've heard us talk about, especially up until the pandemic, China, China, China. The luxury pavilions is something that we've heard a lot of people building. Essentially what you would call a D2C site, or at least a D2C site experience on top of a marketplace. And some of the curated social platforms is another area that we've seen people get some traction. We do see that within the international marketplaces phase, if you will, starting to mature. What we haven't talked a lot about and won't talk too much about today is just the emergence of private marketplaces, B2B marketplaces. But we do see this as a way for people to work with platform partners to help pull their global distribution networks together into more of an e-commerce-based, digital-based partnership. So, Jim, I'll let you kind of wrap up on, kind of the area that we haven't talked a lot about, which was what we used to call the regional build, but really the regional e-commerce piece.
Yeah, and just one point on the marketplace models that we're seeing. We are currently doing field work in a 12-country study, just looking at how marketplaces are changing. So stay tuned on that as we publish that later this year or early next. What we're talking about here with the regional e-commerce stage is what we love to talk about with especially a number of more enterprise scale global brands essentially, and how this is changing. You'll hear us talk through it in many sessions today. We've always said that global omnichannel is perhaps the highest degree of difficulty, right? And we're, I think, hearing that play out now. That's why we feel that certainly like we're still in the very early stages of how you would work with all of your channel partners, have that data trail that underlies things that really helps us optimize and say where are we driving demand versus where are we really focusing on operational capabilities. So again, stay tuned for more. We wanted to kind of plant the seed, in these opening, remarks, just to say again, these are themes that we're hearing from you in the community as we've talked to so many of you and those who are joining us here on stage. Take all this in. We also want to encourage that. We always say that the conversation starts on stage and continues off stage. I think we're very fortunate that Many of our speakers, will be, here throughout the day. Some things that we have planned, like, smaller peer group discussions, peer meetups are happening at a couple of, times, today where, again, just really good, networking, opportunities, but just sharing, some of what you're seeing, and hearing from your counterparts. So, as Scott said, please, lean in, to again, meeting your neighbor around, as you look around the room here, and again, take it all in. But thanks again.
Yeah, and I want to come on in, get seated up front. Whenever we have an opportunity to videotape these events, we do it, and we really want to thank all of our speakers, but we also want to thank all of our sponsors as well. We really can't do this, and some of the thanking behind these slides have been in large part to working with the experts in the space, which are the folks that are out there around the venue, and so we definitely encourage you guys to talk to them, tell them what your problems are, because they've got the solutions. So we'll be spending the day. We've got a great mixture of firesides and panels, and I'm going to ask our first panel to kind of come on up, and we're just going to kind of get things going. So thanks everybody for filling in today, and I hope everybody has a great day today. And again, throughout the day, we encourage people to raise their hand and to say, hey, I've got a question, and that's fair game.